All right. Our next guest, a member of the Association for Israel Studies, the Council on Foreign Relations, noted author and a specialist on the modern history of history and politics of the Middle East. Let's welcome Ian Lustick into the show today. Ian, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Is it possible that Benjamin Netanyahu has dissolved the government as either a chance to save his job, or do you believe he's really doing this in order to protect Israel and do everything possible to make sure that nation stays safe?
It's the former. That's if you watch his career, he's zigged and zagged in every possible way. And the only really consistent theme has been what can preserve Benjamin Netanyahu's opportunities to be in power. Of course, that's not unusual for politicians. That's the way almost all politicians operate. It's certainly the way he's operating.
Why then is he facing such opposition in his own government? Because it seems as if there are those who want him out just as quickly as possible. You would think that everybody there would be on the same path to keep Israel safe from a multitude of enemies.
Well, most Israelis do want to keep Israel safe. The question is how to do that. And 60% of Israelis who are saying in polls that they want anybody but Netanyahu to be prime minister, among other things, don't think that what he's doing is keeping Israel particularly safe.
Well, Ian, let's talk about the fact, and we should point out that a parliamentary system is very different from our constitutional republic, though I can say as a recovering member of Congress, electoral preservation is very important to anyone serving in office. So the prime minister's called for what I guess in parliamentary parlance is a snap election. If possible, compare the political polarization in Israel with what we experience in the United States. By American standards, would we be shocked with some of the strife and the fighting that goes on, politically speaking, on a daily basis among these different parties in that parliamentary system?
No, I don't think we would, but there is a big difference right now. We have in the United States, certainly in the last Congress and perhaps going forward, a divided government. It's relatively evenly divided, so neither Republicans nor Democrats can really get what they want. And that used to be the case in Israel in the 1980s. The government was so evenly divided between polarized right and left that very little could be done in any direction. Now the country has moved to the right in terms of its voting base so much that the real action is within the right-center part of the political spectrum. And the assumption by Netanyahu was not that he would lose power, but that he would gain power again with a better right-wing majority and a better, more manageable coalition. But what's happening is that the polls are showing that there's so much dissatisfaction with the way he's been handling the government, and not just foreign policy, but specifically domestic policy as well, and questions of equality and social welfare, that there's been a return to viability of the left center, and that's thrown up the cards for what this next coalition will mean. It probably will not be a coalition that emerges that will make a difference in terms of whether a peace between Israel and the Palestinians can be achieved, but it will make a great difference for Netanyahu personally and for the particular complexion of the coalition.
Ian, I only have about 20 seconds left before we take a break. The Jerusalem Post talks about President Obama's administration's fingerprints on the events that have led to what Netanyahu is in right now, asking the question, is Obama secretly working to replace Netanyahu? Your take.
No, not in any way that American administrations haven't always tried to cultivate relations with Israeli governments that would be more attuned to American interests.
All right, now if you please stand by, break, and we're back with Ian Lustick with a new flashpoint attack by Palestinians, and there is growing tension with Russia that could tip the war scales further in the Middle East, something that they need to be concerned about in the Netanyahu government. So stay with us on all that. We'll talk about what is happening further in the Middle East when this special edition of America's Forum continues.